I am Canadian, free to speak without fear. I believe the world needs more Canada. I will always bash the Canadian government, but never Canada. I am from a thoroughly unrealistic country. I am Canadian, eh? Canadian falls in the forest. And no one is around. Does he still apologize? I am Canadian to my core. I love Canada because it's my home. Can you spot the Canadian? We the North. MarijuanaIndex.ca. Canadian hockey, good poutine, double, bacon, maple syrup, loony. I'm very proud to be Canadian. But in February, I would move to California in a fucking heartbeat. I love you, Canada. Happy.
We're fighting for our right to live. We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish.
The offense that was committed, it was committed against all of you. So if that makes you angry or feel misrepresented, do something about it. The responsibility of a country is not in the hands of a privileged few. We are strong and we are free from tyranny as long as each one of us remembers his or her duty as a citizen.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. But until you start believing in yourself, you ain't gonna have a life.
You nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever.
We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed, we cared about our neighbors, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy.
We're in hell right now. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. In any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die. Because that's what living is.
First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one.
Or we will die as individuals.
The thing is, if you just do stuff and nothing happens, what's it all mean? What's the point?
It's a valuable future. Believe me. Don't destroy it. Protect it. Embrace it. It's gonna make you proud one day, I promise you.
We are tired of being forced into choices.
The protesters know police action is likely coming, but they feel they've ignited a movement.
We all want the protests to end and these Canadians to feel like they've been heard and respected.
Got no balls if you can't come out of that building and talk to people.
Thousands gathered in the downtown core at the National War Memorial and for a counter-protest that's starting to pick up steam.
Dozens of officers from around Ontario and the RCMP were brought in. The Ontario Provincial Police and RCMP had their tactical vehicles for backup.
For the next generation of kids' freedom, I'll take a fine, I'll get arrested, I'm not afraid.
French police clashed with protesters today after a convoy inspired by Canadian rallies made its way to central Paris. Officials say police arrested more than a dozen people and handed out hundreds of fines.
Democrats in this country are looking north to their friends in the ruling party of Canada, and what they see there scares them. It's hard to overstate the historical significance of what we're watching right here. The Canadian trucker convoy is the single most successful human rights protest in a generation. The truckers, as he's explained, they're racists.
This is the guy who did blackface so often that he can't remember how many times he did it.
Trudeau state broadcasters had been repeating these lies over and over and over again for maximum effect.
Some of the organizers of this protest, which, as I mentioned, started more than a week ago, they do want to overthrow the government.
Canadian officials calling the situation a, quote, nationwide insurrection.
But what Justin Trudeau apparently didn't count on is that a handful of independent journalists are committing journalism inside Canada. And a free press works. This man says that Justin Trudeau's authoritarian behavior reminds him of the Ayatollahs in the country he left, which is Iran. Watch.
I'm from Iran, and I'm proud to be between the freedom-loving Canadian. I lost my freedom once in Iran. I don't want to lose my freedom again in Canada.
Is he a Nazi? Is he a white supremacist? We all lose when they do that. It's not a free country. It's a very scary place. And that's exactly what Canada has become under Justin Trudeau. Watch this one. A few years ago, Justin Trudeau gave more than $10 million in taxpayer money in a settlement to a self-described al-Qaeda soldier called Omar Khadr. Khadr murdered a U.S. Army sergeant. Now, murdering a U.S. Army sergeant is bad, but it's not as bad as criticizing Justin Trudeau. So Trudeau did not freeze Khadr's bank account. Instead, he just made him rich and moved on. When anti-Christian arsonists burned more than 50 Catholic churches across Canada, Justin Trudeau did not declare an emergency. Instead, he issued a statement sympathizing with them. Justin Trudeau won re-election last year with less than a third of the national vote. In fact, he finished the election behind his main competitor. Trudeau had relatively few supporters, but they turned out to be the right supporters. They were the people with power.
Well, now Justin is getting his chance to play dictator. Listen.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
Instead of talking or sympathizing with them, Canada's Prime Minister has decided to go after them. Trudeau is bullied into action by a fearful Joe Biden, who was worried this freedom display would make its way south of the border. So he convinced Justin to turn up the heat on his own people.
Federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
Sounds a little extreme for dealing with some truckers who simply turned off their engines. This act that he just used was created for events like natural disasters, civil unrest, and war. You know, real emergencies. Think about that. Nothing during the War on Terror or the pandemic or the BLM riots last year. Never once did they play the Emergencies Act card. But this week, it's being used to squash political opponents.
This is unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. This is unprecedented. How can this happen in Canada? How can this happen in what is supposed to be a strong, vibrant democracy? Reach out to NDP and Liberal members of Parliament and let them know that you're upset, that you're not happy, and tell them that you will remember this at the next election. Justin Trudeau has to be taught a lesson. Tell your friends and your family to remember this. This cannot be allowed to happen in a democracy. Other countries around the world are taking notice of this. Other countries with terrible human rights records are now attacking Canada because Justin Trudeau has decided to do this without any justification, without meeting the legal threshold for the use of this Emergency Measures Act. Take the time to contact those Liberal and NDP members of Parliament. Thanks for tuning in.
I'll let you on a little secret about these telephones. They're not going to dial themselves.